like a well, you don't like petting like animals that hardly have any fur at all. That's essentially like what a velvet thing of velvet feels like a hairless cat maybe, or
Gross.
like that hairless rat that Kim Possible's buddy has. One of those.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Never watched Kim Possible?
No. Okay.
It's pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
in its
Do
day,
your
it
kids
was.
watch it?
I think they did when they were little. I mean, they don't now, but
Right.
it's a good
I
show.
am assuming that's why you watched it.
Right. No, I have a thing for redheaded cartoon characters. No,
Oh.
I watched it because they watched it. But it's one of the better ones they watch. Out of all the shit they would watch, like Kids Next
Like
Door,
I know of
or
it,
right.
and I'm trying to picture what it looked like in my head. I think it was in the era of like the Cartoon Network, like well, I see like ugly sort of stuff like Johnny Bravo,
It was
Dexter's Lab, and that sort
yeah,
of.
no, it was better animation than that. It was closer to like a Bruce Timm style animation than it was to like a Dexter's Laboratory. But yeah, it was good. I mean, it didn't have the charm of like a Powerpuff Girls, but it was good for Disney because at that time all the good cartoons were like the Warner Brothers cartoons or some Cartoon Network shit. Disney's always been garbage, so it was decent.
I'll take your word for it.
But also to go back to why didn't I have the beer in front of me and why wasn't I prepared is someone logged into the room about 5 minutes early. So
Oh, I see.
yeah, I start the Zoom meeting early so I can see what I look like, fix my hair if I need to, powder my face to get some of the redness off.
No,
But
no, I get it.
then it says Scott wants to join and it's 5 minutes earlier.
No, it's totally understandable.
I mean, I could have made you wait 5 minutes,
No,
but
no, you're putting things into terms I can understand here. That it's my fault.
that's right. This whole podcast might be your fault. I can't remember whose idea this was, but
Oh, it was totally not my idea.
okay. Well, that was 191 episodes ago. This is the Illustrious Gentlemen. You can go to tigshow.com for all the links to all the merch, all the episodes. Support us at Patreon, tigshow.com/Patreon. Yeah, pretty simple. We're comic book artists. Scott's the talent. I'm the looks. Yeah, go to your comic book store and demand that, or don't go to your comic book store. Jesus Christ, stay home. Send an electronic message to your comic book store and tell them that you want to order House of L from Detective Comics coming in February, I believe, if someone hits their deadline. And it's good so far from what I've seen from my sneak peeks.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, looks fun. Looks work intensive, but looks fun.
Yes, it's over.
Yes, someone put this man on a solo book set in a snowstorm. We were we got some pages in for Family Tree yesterday, and it had a character on there, my favorite character from the book. And I said, "Oh, we should do a prequel or a sequel just featuring this character." And then someone else made a joke, and then I think the joke was, "We'll get Frank Miller to draw it." And then I said, "If Frank doesn't want to draw it, I'll draw it for a fraction of his rate as long as it's set in the snow." And then basically, Jeff Lemire is going to have a new book out with Jock, and it's set in the snow. And he's like, that's essentially what Jock told me when we tried to work together. He said, "Let's set it in the snow." Okay, cool. But yeah, set it in the snow. Give this man a book set in the snow. Yeah.
I want to do a Moon Knight book in the snow.
That'd be great. All you got to do is draw like 1/3 of every panel, and it'll probably be black silhouette, so it's even better.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I'm into that. All right. Are you drinking today, or am I drinking solo today? No pressure. You just tell me what I'm doing.
No, you're drinking solo. I ain't got nothing.
Okay. Let me
I got
finish
shit
it.
to do.
Oh, so do I. I spent my morning doing character designs,
Ugh.
which is always tricky, because especially when it's not like a superhero book. So it's like, oh, just design like a guy who looks like a guy that you see anywhere. So it's like, just draw a guy. Like, not exactly the most fun thing, but it's part of the job.
Where's the design element in that?
I don't know. The design element is I got paid to design that character.
Mm.
So design him I will. And then the other ones are, let's design these characters who have a much better visual look, but something out of my wheelhouse and not in my comfort zone. So, I'm always curious. We should probably at some point have someone on the show, or like, I'm interested why people consider me when they're trying to pitch a book or hire for a book.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them think of me? Because when I'm doing the character designs, I'm like, this isn't anything I've really done before. Like, what is it? Like, I'm curious as to what makes someone like want to pitch a book and then be like, oh, that guy's good for this. Like, that guy would be good for this book. Like, why would that guy be good for that book? I talked to
That's
Brian.
a fair question.
I talked to Brian Stelfreeze once, and he's like, every comic artist wants to be the guy that can draw anything, but you want to be the guy who's known for something. So when editors are like, oh, we want a book in this style, you immediately come to mind. Like, we pride ourselves on being like, well, we can draw anything, but
I can see that.
You want to be the sci-fi guy, or you want to be the crime book guy, or you want to be, or even if you don't want to be, you want to be for purposes of hiring. Like, trying to think of a guy. Like, if you think of like violent, colorful superhero comic, you think of like Ryan Otley. If you think of dark Victorian horror, you think of Mignola. That kind of.
Sure.
Nobody.
You want to be the master,
right?
Not just a jack.
Yes, that. So I guess you're becoming the guy who a teen book with lots of characters on every page. Let's get Scott to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. People love it.
If I survive.
People love it if you hit your deadline and if it ever comes out. All right. Today, on today's show, I am drinking. This is another gift. It's another gift. It's a gift. From my brother. He keeps buying me beer. I guess that's one of the good advantages of now living next door to him half the time. It's just random beers show up for me. So I try to save them for the show. This is going to be my last craft beer for the next 9 weeks, but I'll get to that in a minute. This is Boulevard Brewing Company's from Kansas City, Missouri, which I want to go visit soon. Steep Drop. It's a nitro cold brew milk stout. There's nothing wrong with any of those words. The nitro, pour hard. Cold brew, my favorite kind of coffee. Milk stout, one of my favorite kind of beers. What's not to like about this?
I don't know. It looks like a carton of
Looks
Neapolitan ice cream.
Yeah, it looks like a creamer more than like a coffee or anything. But let's pour this bitch hard and see what happens. Although it doesn't say pour hard, it's just the nitro, so I assume that you can. But I could be in trouble here in a second. No. Ooh. My least favorite kind of head on this beer. Not much.
It just wants to get right to it.
Yeah, no foreplay on this one. Wow, smells a lot like coffee, which you would hope is what you get in a coffee or cold brew milk stout. I had a coffee beer the other day that they claimed was brewed with decaffeinated coffee beans. And my immediate thought was, for what purpose?
I don't know why those exist.
No, but there's no way there's no way there's caffeine survived this brewing process. There's probably not any caffeine in this beer. So why would you brew a beer with decaf coffee beans? Except right now there's a brewer and a barista out there screaming at me that, yes, coffee beers have caffeine in them. But you know what, Michael? I don't want to hear it because I don't believe it.
His name's not Michael.
It's Mikhail. With 2 Ks. Yeah, so it smells like coffee. It looks like coffee. But what I was saying a minute ago is the other day, I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I shower, genius ideas just come at me. They smack me around a little bit.
Come at me.
Yeah. So I had a genius idea the other day, and it's not in these notes for some reason. What is going on? It did not update my
Uh-oh.
notes. Anyways,
Who's it?
so I thought that leading up to our 200th episode, I did the math. 9 episodes after this one, I'm going to do blind beer, a blind budget beer taste test. All right, all budget beers taste the same, is what I've always thought. So why not put that thought to the test? So I created a bracket of 16 American budget beers, and I'm going to blind taste test them. And over the course of 9 weeks, I'm going to get to what I will find out will be my favorite budget beer. Like, who knows what it is?
Okay, so you've got 16 over
16?
9 weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to do four. The first 3 rounds are going to be four. I'm going to cut 4 beers an episode. So 2 winners an episode will move on. I didn't want to make this drag out for like fucking 3 months. So I made it work perfectly so that on our 200th episode, I'm going to crown my favorite budget beer, whatever that might be. So I'll talk more about that next week. But if anyone wanted to follow along with this endeavor, if anyone wants to join me on this experiment, I was going to give them my 4 beers for next week in advance so they could go to their local Circle K and get it. One of these might be kind of hard to find depending on where you live. But next week, number 1 seed Budweiser. These are only seeded in how they came to my brain. So there's really no seeding at all, just what I thought of. But next week, we'll have number 1 Bud Heavy, so Bud Red, against Schlitz, which you might have trouble finding depending on where you live.
Bud Red.
Bud Heavy, Budweiser, yeah. So next week is Bud versus Schlitz and Miller Lite versus Coors Light, which are both Miller Coors. So they're essentially the same company, just different labels. So I really don't give a shit about either one of those, but I'm interested in the Budweiser versus Schlitz because I have stated before, I'm a Bud Heavy kind of guy. If I'm going to drink a shitty American lager, it's going to be a Budweiser. So yeah, next week, if you want to follow along, get yourself a Budweiser, get yourself a Schlitz, a Miller Lite, and a Coors Light. And I'll shut up about that now, and I'll go back to my show notes for this episode. Any TikTok stuff? I noticed you sent me a text this morning, and you said, how'd I sound last week? And I jumped over to listen to last week's episode, and every time I moved the thing to listen, it was always me talking. So we need more of you talking.
Oh, that is not, has never been the recipe for success on the show.
I disagree. So anything on the TikTok segment? Anything you've been doing? Because mine is very limited.
No, I finished Schitt's Creek. It's good. It's a nice show. Yeah, it's fine. No, I've been doing rewatch the X-Files is. I'm 11, 12 episodes in, something. It's astounding that it got a second season.
And a third, and a fourth, and a couple movies, and a
David
reboot.
Duchovny is just awful. Awful.
Yeah.
And and Scully's pantsuits are just killing me.
Yeah, no one in history has worked harder to be less sexy than she is in the first few seasons of X-Files. Until they finally let another button loose and then opened up the wide collar, and stopped covering up the mole. Like the cover up of the mole was distracting for the first couple seasons because it's obviously there, but it's barely there.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
No, she's growing on me as the season's going along, though. I don't know what they did. Yeah. So nice. And she's acting. She's an actor.
Okay.
He's acting so hard at David Duchovny that he's just got nothing. He just swings and misses all the time.
Right. Do you think she has to act so hard because he has nothing? He's giving her nothing. Do you know what that's like to give everything you have to something and then the other person on the other end barely gives you anything in return?
Huh. Are we still talking about X-Files?
I think I'm Gillian Anderson in this scenario.
Yeah, it's a bad show. I watched one episode the other night. It was about so NASA had just gotten the photos from the face on Mars,
Okay.
right? You know what the face on Mars is?
Vaguely.
Photo.
Sure.
This mountain shaded. You take that goddamn picture at any other time of the day and it doesn't look like that. So they turned that into a whole episode. There was an actual alien ghost that possesses this dude. And he tries to sabotage his space shuttle, and like his face keeps morphing into the Mars mountain face. Even for 1992 or whatever, I cannot believe that a major network let that air.
I think that's going to be a theme in today's show, actually, is bad 90s sci-fi.
God,
but
it was terrible.
To spoil a little bit of today's episode, one of the shows I almost chose for today's topic was a spinoff of X-Files, Millennium, but I did not choose it. But that's a show. I don't have much desire to go back and rewatch X-Files unless a viewing order was put out on the internet that's just Monster of the Week episodes, because I don't care about the conspiracy shit. So if there's a way that I could just watch these 6 episodes from season 1, these 8 from season 2, then I would be interested. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, that's out there, I'm sure. Anyway.
Sure.
I haven't been doing anything else.
All right. Well,
I got nothing.
I watched something that you might be interested in since you don't know what to do next. Watching TV wise, I'm going to give you 7 episodes of content. I ended up watching Godless on Netflix, which came out like 3 years ago.
I started that.
Yeah, so it's not great. It's solid, but it's not great. I mean, it's not Deadwood.
It's not great.
Yeah, but Jeff Bridges was really good in it. He's a little I feel like Jeff Bridges. A lot of times he doesn't ham it up as much as he wants, and in this one he kind of gets to really choose some scenery and ham it up. And then this actually has one of my favorite actresses, but she's like a favorite actress who I know who she is, but I couldn't tell you what I liked her in because I don't know what I've seen her in, just like around. And it's Merritt Weaver, who's like the female lead or the second female lead in this. But I could not tell you what she was in before any of this. She was on like a couple episodes of The Walking Dead. She was on some other stuff that I watch. Anyways, I find her cute and adorable. And I also like Michelle Dockery is in this from, Downton Abbey. She's adorable as well. But yeah, it's about like a mining town in New Mexico. It's mostly women.
Yeah, that's how I remember it being sold that way. It's a Western about a town full of women.
Yeah, so it's women, old men, and young men because all of the working age men died in a mine accident.
Right. And so I remember being disappointed actually watching the show when the 2 protagonists are white dudes.
Yes. Yeah, that's a funny thing about the show is the 3 main characters, if you wanted to call them that, are all white dudes. And then you get into the female characters. But it was fine. Again, it was fine. It's 7 episodes. It's fine. If you like Westerns, it's better than, just like most modern things are better than old things. So if you like old shitty Westerns, you'll love this. This will blow your fucking minds, So yeah, but it's not like Deadwood by any stretch of the imagination, but it's fun. That's what I watched. Other than that, I just went back to watch like car shows. Like I was watching the Grand Tour on Amazon and shit like that. Travel shows, nothing important. Oh, look at that. My notes are in this document. Whatever. Earlier I said that my notes aren't in the document, but they are. It doesn't matter. And I was finally going to give you guys some comics news because I was finally going to go pick up comics, but then I came down to Phoenix a little early, so I didn't pick up my comics this week. So you're shit out of luck to hear me once again say Pepe Larraz is amazing. Yeah, I can just say Pepe Larraz is amazing, but I don't care about X of Swords. And I can also say Firepower is amazing, but I don't really know what's happening. So I haven't read them yet, but that'll be my beautiful comics that I don't quite get the story. Although you get the story in Firepower. It's a pretty basic story. But I picked both those books up for art. I'm sure the art won't disappoint. So run out, buy Firepower.
Sofia Vergara of comics. Like, just don't talk.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, Pepe Larraz, Chris Somney. What are you going to do? All right, let's get into the show topic so we can maybe get a tight hour out of this episode, because I don't listen to our episodes, but there's a handful of people who do, and they've got to be sick of hearing us talk for like an hour and a half the last like 3 or 4 episodes. So let's get into
them problem.
Let's get into a tight topic that I'm sure you have copious notes on. I didn't see you hold up a notebook, but I'm sure you have notes on. This topic was inspired by a topic of a podcast that I saw but did not listen to because I didn't want to be I didn't want it to be biased, but I'm always on the lookout for topic ideas because my life partner in this podcast rarely comes to the table with different ideas. So I feel like a burden and a responsibility. So I saw something about like rebooting franchises, and I'm like, that's a good idea. I'm not going to listen to that episode on that podcast because I don't want to get tainted. So
my wife's brother's best friend's topic.
Sure. So I think I said let's pick 3 TV shows and reboot them to whatever degree you want. I mean, I have a paragraph for each one. Can't speak for yourself. But again, let's go talent before beauty. What's your first one? And I would be shocked if we don't overlap at some point, because I have 2 that I think could overlap with you.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
So why don't you shoot, buddy? Go first.
Sure. The one I'm most passionate about, I suppose. We'll start with that one. Let's go back. I want to do X-Files. I want to do a new X-Files.
Okay.
series.
So let's when we talk about these, let's dissect what we liked about the original and what it left us wanting more of.
Doing the rewatch, I can't imagine it was anything other than the concept that people were responding to.
Yeah, it was,
because everything else is just awful.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah.
The writing's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The effects are terrible. The acting's terrible. That title sequence is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen on TV. Everything about it is awful.
I have a show where the title sequence is awesome and the show is terrible. So, but do you think X-Files succeeded more because of the monster of the week and the funny parts of it, or the like David Duchovny's wacky but she's by the books, or do you think it succeeded more because of the overall story?
Yeah, well, I think one of the notes I wrote down for it is spooky moonlighting, and that's sort of I think that's what its shtick developed into, but early on it was not that. It was more. It was Monster of the Week stuff. A lot of it is that. I think plot-wise through like the first 11 or 12 episodes I'm into. Like the big story of the early X-Files was Mulder looking for his sister. And I think that's come up in 2 episodes maybe so far. So, no, it feels like whenever I go to my mother-in-law's house, she's always got Law and Order on. And it feels like Law and Order. Like Law and Order it's a show that's about the show. There are no good actors on Law and Order. I mean, because you don't need them. You wouldn't know any of those people were good actors if you hadn't seen them somewhere else. Because the show was just talk about what's happening, exposition, that's it.
Yeah.
People walk into a scene, they say a couple of lines at each other, and then it goes to a different scene. And that's what X-Files is. David Duchovny is just dead, and he just delivers, in Colorado in 1987, this particular, person saw this particular light in the sky, Scully.
Okay, so
then he makes some joke, and he's got no expression. He's just dead. And that's Law and Order.
Because he's probably thinking about fucking, because David Duchovny's a notorious sex addict. Are you saying early X-Files would have benefited from more delving into the characters' personal lives, or just
They do that. There's been a couple of Scully episodes so far in the first dozen or so, and those are good, and she's good in them. I don't know if they want to keep Mulder mysterious, or they don't think he can do the heavy lifting that's required in those scenes. But yes,
Okay.
it needs to be more character driven. A reboot needs to revolve more around the characters of Mulder and Scully
Okay.
and
So
be less gimmicky plot dependent.
all right. So if you were a network, who would you put in charge of this reboot? Do you have any casting decisions in mind, direction in mind? What are your
You know,
thoughts?
well, it wouldn't be Chris Carter. That's for goddamn sure.
No, he's too busy doing football analysis on ESPN.
Yeah, that's it. Maybe then I would choose Chris Collinsworth. Maybe he can still run X-Files. No, I don't know who I would put in charge of this. I sort of the behind the curtain stuff with TV is a lot more nebulous to me than film stuff. So when we do a movie version of this topic, I'll be able to speak a lot more confidently to those sorts of things.
You don't think a movie guy could run a TV show?
Sure, you could executive produce a TV show.
Yeah.
A lot of them do all the time. I don't know how involved it actually is. Coming off of Schitt's Creek, though, I would like to see Annie Murphy in the Scully role.
Okay, which one? I've only watched one season of
Yeah,
Schitt's Creek.
no, she plays that's Alexis Rose, and I've seen a couple of like where they do the cast sort of inside the actor's studio shit, you know, and she's nothing like the character on the show at all, which tells me that she's a pretty good actress. And I would like to see her do other things because I think she's incredibly talented, and I haven't seen her in anything else. So,
okay, but who is she
offering
on?
you a job.
Who is she on Schitt's Creek?
She's Alexis Rose, the daughter.
Oh, the sister.
Yeah.
Oh, I find her infuriating after one season.
Oh, she's great. Just great.
Maybe I need to give it a longer rewatch. All right, who would be your male lead since you cast someone who's barely been in anything for your female lead?
This is a tough one. I don't know. I was trying to think of young actors, like sort of aloof, sort of handsome guy. I'm too old to do that, and I don't watch enough TV to know who's who anymore. Because I would think, John Stamos from the original Full House run. Oh, but he's not that age anymore.
No, now you have current John Stamos from the creepy commercial where he knits.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. The first name I wrote down was Dev Patel.
Oh.
Sort of kind of nerdy, but cleans up well, you know.
Yeah, it's a good choice, actually.
Yeah, so I guess I'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
We'll do it. We'll do a screen test.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
We'll call him in, maybe call him back. So would you, if you were going to be in charge of this reboot, would you do more episodic, or would you do more like current television where every season is one giant storyline? Because I don't know if you could take the Monster of the Weeks out of these, out of X-Files, because that's what the movies do.
That's baked into that.
That's why I don't like the movies that well, because the movies are all just focused on like, Mulder's bullshit, and that's boring to me.
And this is the thing that kicked off this sort of age of television where people are interested in all of this nonsense stuff. After this, you get the ancient aliens and ghost hunters and all of that garbage. I think maybe you play into that a little bit. So maybe I don't make them federal agents. Maybe I would have Scully be some sort of like an author, science communicator, sort of.
Yeah, like
But
Angela
I don't know how to
Lansbury.
get them together, that sort of thing. Maybe Dev is his Mulder is independently wealthy and just interested in this stuff. So then you can still have them sort of going around and jet setting, and I don't have to wonder all the time how they can rent so many cars. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe he's the CEO of Hertz.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that could work. I think the thing with X Files is it really is more than most shows. It's such a fine line between absurdist and government conspiracy and just fun. Like it's such a balance because it's never one or the other or whatever. It's all three of those are trying to balance because you can't make it so like they did a whole couple seasons before Scully finally came around. So it's a formula that gets old quick of Scully always being like, "Oh, you're crazy, Mulder. You're dumb." And then all of a sudden, in
Right.
season four, Scully gets abducted, and all of a sudden she's like, "I'm fully on board now." So it's like you got to come around a little quicker on that. But having two people that are like having two Mulders essentially would be fun because then they're oblivious to the bullshit.
Yeah, that's a different show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, possibly
Yeah,
a
I
better
don't
one.
know. We'd have to workshop it, but
Sure.
I think that's a thing where I just want the title and sort of it. I think something like this is all just brand sort of awareness and loyalty.
Right.
So I would keep almost nothing from the original.
Yeah, you could even have it like Dev Patel, who's independently wealthy, or the author woman who. The best part is don't make her a popular author. Make her someone who publishes her books on Amazon for like free, like Kindle, Amazon. But if you have Dev Patel, who's like independently wealthy, maybe he's a fan of hers. She has like 400 fans, and he's one of them. And he buys like an estate auction, and it's who's Mitch Pileggi's character on X Files? Who's
No, yeah,
the bald boss?
Skinner.
Yeah, basically you buy Skinner's estate because his kids are
Skinner.
garbage, and so they don't take care of anything. So you buy his estate, and you get the X Files. You get like a filing cabinet with the X Files in it, and you're Dev
Yeah,
Patel who loves this shit.
and you could even have them be like part of the same like ghost investigation team or whatever. She's the skeptic and he's the believer.
Yeah, the
Um,
GIT.
yeah, yeah, that's what I would do. I would reboot X Files. I would keep almost nothing. I would hire talented leads, and I would put a little money into my intro sequence.
Yeah, that looks like it was done on After Effects in like 1997.
Yeah, not even After Effects.
Yeah,
Whatever
just
the precursor to that was.
yeah, Microsoft Paint. All right. So, any other notes on X Files before we move on?
No,
Okay.
I like it.
My first one is one that is a concept that I think has legs, but was executed poorly, and that's Quantum Leap. Okay, so
Wow.
a pretty good concept because every week can be completely different. You don't have a formula. It's the opposite of a formulaic show, um, and so I think the problem was that the first show, the original, the OG QL, was played for laughs. It was played as like a comedy, as like a sitcom. I would play it as more of like a sci-fi, uh, more serious take. But in today's time, it could be a great show to explore like race relations, sexual orientation, different lifestyles. You could, because I don't, as far as I know, he never quantum leaped into like a Brazilian in a favela, whose parents were, he had a Uzi pointed at somebody. It was always like
Sure.
middle America bullshit. So you could really use this to like really explore some sensitive topics. It's got time travel, action, the key part is it could almost be like a Twilight Zone style show where every week you could have a different guest star, because whoever our star leaps into could be, Brad Pitt. Not that you would get Brad Pitt for TV, but you know what I'm talking about. You could get like a big actor who only has to show up for one. Like, say someone wants to get the EGOT, all the awards, and they don't have their Emmy. You get them to guest star in one episode of Quantum Leap. You get Meryl Streep in one episode of Quantum Leap.
Oh yeah, totally.
She's got it, So that's my thing. Is kind of high concept, decent special effects, but there's going to be a theme between a lot of my shows too, and it's going to be mental. Like, is the dude nuts, or is this really happening? That's going to be a theme. So I would have it, and only because we've talked about this so much not so much. It's not like we always.
I can't wait then when you pitch me the new Family Matters. Is Urkel real?
Right. Both will be starring Jake Johnson in the lead. And I was going to say, we haven't been talking about Jake Johnson nonstop because that's a different show, but we did talk about New Girl a little bit in our text. So I think Jake Johnson would be fun because this show just requires him to show up every couple minutes when he's looking in a mirror. Other than that, it's the guest star doing the heavy lifting. So it's perfect for him. I would get rid of the hologram guy that was played by Dean Stockwell. Don't have the hologram. It's almost like Booster Gold.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you what his name was.
Yeah, so
I see him holding the cigar in the same hand he's using to push the buttons on his tricorder or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, so you get rid of the hologram guy altogether, and maybe the other lead in the show is like his partner that he left behind. So you get like a Kristen Bell or somebody that talks to him. And then you really think like, oh, is she really there? Is he talking to a ghost? Is it all in his head? What's really happening? I like that aspect of like, are what we really seeing is real, or is it just in this fucked up dude's head, So I like that aspect of it. And I would have a Noah Hawley develop it. Hawley. He runs Fargo for AMC right now, and he did Legion. He also did the Legion, which is great because Legion's also about like, is it all in his head? Is any of it real? So it's a great. He's great in that kind of storytelling. So that's what I would do, is just basically feed actors and actresses Emmy nominations. Out my butthole, and then if it gets too serious, every third episode you jump into like a kid picking his nose. Oh my God,
on Carrot Top.
Yeah, you do that. Yeah. Or some like little kid who's picking his nose, and the whole episode is like, you got to stop picking your nose. But then he grows up to be like, something he finds in his nose cures COVID. Because then I get the fucking, Nobel Peace Prize along with all the Emmys. So yeah, Quantum Leap. It was always a show that I always felt should have been better than it was. At the very least,
the Medal of Freedom.
Yeah.
Any fucker can get one of those.
Anybody, especially this fucker. So yeah, I feel like it was always a show that should have been better than what it was, and took it and made a joke of its concept, which at the time, and maybe even still now, is a very unique concept for TV and film. It hasn't really been used since or before. It's one of those rarities. As we recycle cop shows and CSI shows, it's a rarity in TV. That kind of concept.
Yeah, it feels like it's got like a built-in dramatic crutch.
Right.
That
Scott Bakula couldn't carry.
Yeah, like the series itself doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
We don't have to create a story.
Right. Yeah.
Just, what if he was Lee Harvey Oswald this episode? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but then I don't remember anything about the show other than that. At the end of every episode, doesn't like JFK end up getting shot anyway? Like he didn't actually change.
I think that was a part of it, and I think the overall story was, if I leap enough times, I get home. But you can't leap. You can't leap until you fix the problem. But yeah, it would be something like that. Like you wouldn't be stopping Lee Harvey Oswald from killing Kennedy. You would be you would be there to tell Lee Harvey Oswald's wife like the secret ingredient to a great apple pie. Like that's when you jump.
Yeah.
So sometimes like he would jump right before he's going to stop LHO from pulling the trigger. He would jump because that extra tablespoon of cinnamon is what he had to leap in there for.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah. Like, oh, I don't understand it. Why haven't I left yet? Lincoln's not dead. And he's got to figure it out.
Sure.
So then there's 3 episodes in the arc after that, after he saves Lincoln, where he's running around just fixing everybody's problems, trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, he's like changing the horseshoes on the neighbor's horse. That's not it. You know, he's mending someone's suit. That's not it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. All right. What's next on your list?
I was trying to think of different types of TV shows, and then I remembered, oh yeah, like documentary sort of reality TV shows are a thing. And I was always a fan of In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. So I thought, oh, I'll do that. That'd be fun. Even though there's a glut of those sorts of shows now, I would want mine to have a big like science, like skepticism bend to it. So yeah, we're gonna go searching for Dracula, and then by the end of the episode, you'll feel like a complete dumbass because you thought, oh, maybe Dracula was real, but after 48 minutes,
Right. But you would learn a lot about Vlad the Impaler in
yeah,
that episode. Right.
and Bram Stoker and
Sure.
Gary Oldman.
So I'll be honest, I have zero memories or very little knowledge of this show. So is that what it was? He just narrated, and then a documentary crew went out. I'm sure he wasn't going out to like the
No,
Amazon
he wasn't.
himself.
But he would appear at the beginning of every episode. You
Right.
know, he walks into frame on the seaside cliff, you know, and
Okay.
puts his hand on his knee, and he tells you about, you know, Elizabeth Bathory or whatever the fuck it is that episode.
Right.
Yeah, and then you don't see him.
Is there a travel host that goes with the crew, or he just narrates the whole thing?
From what I remember, he just narrates the whole thing, and that's what I would do because I guess that the analogous thing to do would be to choose a TV sci-fi guy to host the show. I can't come up with anybody, and I don't like that idea because I don't think it fits what I want to do with the show, which is
Hard science.
Yeah, I want to shit all over everything.
Right, but you can't have Carl Sagan because he's dead. So who would you choose?
No, he's dead, and Tyson is doing his own Cosmos show. There's a podcast I love called Monster Talk. It's a science show about monsters. And one of the co-hosts, Blake Smith, has a really good radio voice. I just need him for voiceovers. I mean, he's not much to look at, so I wouldn't pay him to be in front of the camera.
No, but you could have like a Max Headroom situation where it's like a digital version of somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to watch on this vein. I've spent several episodes trying to watch that show on I can't even think of this is terrible radio. The guy, he has a show on like Discovery or something, and where he goes to find out like the treasure of Sierra Madre or whatever. And he spends the whole episode.
That Destination Unknown. Or
yeah,
whatever.
and then
Josh Gates.
Yeah, and so I hate it because it's, oh wow, we hit something with our shovel and it sounds like metal. Commercial. Come back. Oh, it's like some dude lost a belt buckle 2 years ago. Yeah. But we're gonna we're gonna carbon date that cookie tin though, just to make sure. But yeah, so my first thought is like, oh, it can't be as bad as that.
No, and I liked that particular show early on because he is very obviously like a theater major playing Indiana Jones. So it's all really tongue-in-cheek, and they don't really believe any of this stuff.
He wears
and it was just sort of fun.
Yeah, he wears like the light scarf that like people wear in the Middle East. He'll wear it, even though he's like on a sound stage and shit.
Yeah, he's got the top couple buttons on his shirt open with the tight necklace. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this show is going, nope, this isn't going anywhere where I thought it would go. You're breaking out In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, which is shocking to me. How did his
I
eyebrows
would
look?
also like to reboot his comic Primortals.
Oh, you could do a flip book with Tech War, and it'd be Spock and Kirk doing
Yeah,
comics.
I saw an ad for that in one of the wizards that cartoonist K-Fab was doing. I thought,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
should yank those out of the long box. Scott Eaton was drawing those things.
Yeah. As you yank them out of the long box, just yank them so hard they go into the garbage can, is what you need to do with them. Um,
It came with a trading card insert.
Of course they did. Okay, so my next one on my list is so bad that I sent a tweet out about it, and the tweet said, "I'm trying to watch a sci-fi show from the late '90s to prep for today's TIG show, and it
Oh,
reminds me television is terrible or is much better now, and the lead is
can I
charmless
guess?
and annoying, and I want you to guess."
Is it Sliders?
No, but Sliders made my short list.
Ooh,
Again, I love the concept of Sliders,
yeah.
and it has
Late 90s sci-fi.
yeah. Late 90s into 2000s.
Huh.
Might have even aired on Sci-Fi. It's that bad.
Okay.
And it's Farscape.
Ah,
Another show that I should have loved that is just unwatchable.
I always thought of it as the Jim Henson TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. So I watched like 3 episodes, and the first one is a decent setup episode. But then 2 and 3 are both like they're invaded by something on the ship, and they have to like it's like the trouble with tribbles from Star Trek, but for the second and third episode of this series. But my biggest problem with the original Farscape is that the lead actor had zero charisma and zero acting talent, and was just essentially horrible every time he was on screen. Like the puppet who plays the pilot is better than the main actor who's a human who acts. But I do think that the lead actress is kind of smoking. But yeah, so this would be a good reboot because we're in the time right now of like space sci-fi. You got The Expanse, Star Trek Discovery is on right now. But yeah, just terrible special effects, and I think it's because
That's the thing.
what special
It's the
effects?
special effects. We're in
They
an
couldn't
age
do
right now where it's cheap enough and the turnaround is quick enough now
Yeah,
where you can get decent stuff.
right.
And that
Like,
was the problem for the longest time with TV sci-fi.
yeah, and I remember when this show came out, or when like Battlestar was rebooted, I remember thinking like I don't remember thinking that at the time when I watched them, I wasn't struck about how bad the graphics were, or like Star Trek Next Generation or anything like that. It didn't strike me how bad the special effects were, but now we're in 2020, we're in the end times, and it's super noticeable when you go back and rewatch it. But this one is even worse because you have like shitty Muppets alongside shitty CGI, so
Right.
and a shitty actor. So you're really just shittying up everything with what could be a fun concept.
You can besmirch the acting and the CGI. Leave the puppets alone.
Obviously the puppet that is stationed, the pilot puppet that can't move because he's built into the ship, he's great. But when you have to have a puppet that moves, that guy's terrible. Yeah, just go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's fucking horrible. But I'm going to recast it and have a new showrunner, and it's going to be great. I would have it starring my man Charlie Hunnam, Jax from Sons of Anarchy. He'd be the
Yeah,
lead.
he's looking for work.
Yeah, he'd be the lead. And then for the female lead, I would have Karen Fukuhara, who plays the girl on The Boys, because she's awesome. And I'm going to do a throwback showrunner, not a glitzy pick, but a solid pick. And I'm going to go with Ronald D. Moore, who rebooted Battlestar Galactica like 15 years ago and was also on Star Trek: The Next Generation and the later Star Treks. So I would do it a more serious take on it. So it wouldn't be for Sci-Fi or Fox. It'd be for Prime, or it'd be for HBO Max or something like that.
Everything.
Like everything. You're right. Pretty much same premise, but the main character isn't such a douche. So I'd have like a guy with charisma who's not a fucking dummy, who's not like a meathead. Like that's the thing I get when I watch the show now is
I don't remember.
A
I don't remember what his shtick was. Who was he? Was he just a dude? Did he do something special? Was he like
he was
an army guy or something.
he was a scientist, is what he says, but he never really sciences anything. So, but him and his brother were scientists, and his dad was an astronaut, and they're going to try to. In the original Farscape, the thing was to use Earth's gravity and its atmosphere to skip off the planet and shoot into hyperspace, essentially, like you're skipping a rock. So you get rid of that shit, and you just have you take like a Planet of the Apes motif. You just shoot a dude off into space on the first. So my thing is, you get Charlie Hunnam, sexy Charlie Hunnam, and then he's gonna man the first attempt at like faster than light travel. Okay, something goes wrong. He winds up in the Farscape universe. That's how you do it. You still can have the puppets because the Mandalorian has shown that to some degree puppets still work, but you can also have modern CGI. And then, it's just great. Like another problem that I have with Farscape is in the pilot, the female lead is their enemy and she just gets trapped on the ship with them. But by episode 2, everyone's buddy. There's no conflict anymore. So you got to have the female lead in my scenario be like more conflict driven. Like it's got to last a whole season. She's always trying to sabotage them. You got to work
more long.
Yeah. So, and one of my favorite parts of the show, the concept is the living ship. I love the idea of like a space whale out there that can sometimes not do what you want it to do because it's a living creature. So sometimes you're going to get into trouble because this giant ship that you're living in has a mind of its own.
I forget the name of it. The ship that the Authority used.
Oh, carrier.
Carrier.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, just do the same. You don't have to tweak it much. You just have to take the concept and make it good, which is what they didn't do. I got 2.5 episodes or 3. Yeah, 2.5 episodes in, and I bailed.
Yeah. I remember starting the show and watching it specifically for the Muppets, and thinking, oh, this is really boring.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the lead, I don't know. I don't know if I would make him anything special, like a pilot or somebody familiar with science and all. I guess in my head, I'm seeing something like Futurama, where he's just sort of a guy.
Yeah, but how does he
doesn't know anything about anything?
But how does he find himself in that situation? Yeah, I guess you could have him the janitor at NASA, and he falls into an unmanned
He was delivering
launch.
a pizza to CERN. And got stuck in the collider somehow.
Right. Yeah, but Charlie Hunnam's not going to play a nobody. He's not going to play a pizza delivery guy.
No, he could be a male stripper.
Oh, that'd be great. Like he shows up and it's like a female, or it could be a male. Let's not be sexist. Someone's party, inside the launch at Houston. And he's like dancing, and all of a sudden he goes in the wrong door, and he steps into an unmanned probe.
It's a bachelorette party at some Black Ops science site.
Sure. Yeah, Black Ops bachelorette party. Maybe that's the thing, is they keep him on staff because everyone there's quarantined because of the project. So he just strips for anybody. He's just like living in a dorm somewhere on campus.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck, we need a new stripper. And he just takes a wrong
turn. So then
turn.
At the end of season 1, when they're finally captured by the evil alien queen, and she's like, do you have any last words before we execute you and your friends? He like rips off his pants. And he just starts gyrating, and she's like, "Oh, I'm convinced.
Yeah, we're gonna keep you alive, but we're still gonna kill all them.
Bring him to my chambers."
Right. Yeah, maybe every season ends with him stripping for his own survival, but then they kill the crew, and every season's a whole new crew. But anyways, I think
Farscape is deserving.
I think Farscape with Charlie Hunnam as like a lead would do well if they treated it with the gravitas it deserves as a son of Jim Henson's product. All right, what's your last one? Because I said we were going to do 3. Doesn't mean you did it.
Yeah, I chose a cartoon for my third one. It's a sci-fi cartoon from my youth. I went with Exo Squad. You remember Exo Squad?
No,
It
I'm
was
older than you.
entire. It was an entire cartoon based on the climax of Aliens. It's just people in giant machine armor. So it's like it's in the I forget. It's like the 25th century or some shit. And
That,
mankind is
that's the
terraformed Mars and
okay.
Venus, something like that. I don't know why you would do Venus, but we're on Venus now. And
Sure.
they make new slaves called Neo Sapiens, and then the Neo Sapiens revolt. So you get a lot of the racial injustice, and you get your slave stuff, and it's about a unit of um, um, army guys that drive the exosuits, and they all do
Okay.
different things. They have machine guns on them and shit.
Yeah. So
So
much.
you get the war stuff, and
Sure.
yeah.
So much to unpack here. One is we're 300 years in the future, and we're still working with exoskeletons instead of like brain implants and virtual stuff or whatever. We're still working with like what Ripley had on a loading
Well, yeah,
dock.
when you go out into space, you're
Sure, space
fixing your
trucker,
shit.
right?
And,
Yeah, I forgot my other
yeah, I
point.
don't know. I remember it being a really heady show when I was like 12 or whatever.
Yeah, when you were watching that, I was making love to women, so I was not watching Exo Squad. And
One of us.
when I mean women, I mean like 45-year-old women. Um, yeah, okay. So was it good though? Like if you watched it now, would it hold up like the animated like
Um,
Batman holds up, or is
it,
it
I haven't watched it. Um, I haven't gone back and revisited it. I imagine I would probably find it more interesting now than I did as a
right?
kid. I was just watching it for the robots and shit.
Right, but the animation has to be terrible if
Oh,
it
the
was
animation's terrible.
right.
It's 94, 93, 94. And who was it? Playmates made the toys, which I was a big fan of. Jesus Christ, who was
So
it?
it's
I
probably
don't
like
know, but it's in the same.
Nelvana or somebody.
It's in the style of like Spider-Man, the animated series, whatever else.
All right. So in your reboot, what would you do? Would you focus more on the social aspects? Would they
Um,
still be douchebags in
yeah,
exosuits?
I would have it be. I would go like the CG route, something like Star Wars Rebels, something like that. But yeah, I would have. I would ask Steven Spielberg to executive produce. I was something I've been doing on YouTube is watching first time watch reacts videos. So somebody will watch Saving Private Ryan or Aliens or whatever for the first time. And I've forgotten how awesome fucking Private Ryan is. That
Oh
that
yeah,
movie is
that movie sent my.
crazy.
I'm gonna date myself and my oldest child here, but that movie almost sent my girlfriend at the time into labor. We
That's
went to see it when she was about because I think that movie came out. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
90
Yeah, I'm trying to think what time of year. Maybe that was I think it was a summer movie, is what I would imagine.
probably.
So my son was born in August, so she must have been like 7.5, 8 months when we went to go see that. And I remember her like really having a hard time with it. And it's the first time I was ever at a movie that people were actually leaving during that open scene. Like adults were like
It's intense.
grown
I don't
humans were
think
like
I'd ever experienced anything
yeah.
so visceral.
Yeah. So that's my initial memory of that movie. Seeing it is just watching people leave the theater and watching my wife, and I'm such a good partner that she was having like issues, and I'm like, just write it out. Like the movie, it'll be
Go get me
fine.
more popcorn.
It's gonna that's right, that's right. Little less butter, more salt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would want something like that. Spielberg does that great balance between being super serious about the material while also giving it a real big heart. So I would want something that Yeah, that's even though it's a cartoon, it's not cartoony.
Yeah. So would you do it more like? Did you ever
Band of
see?
Brothers.
Yeah. Did you ever see Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you kind of that take like a more military take on this concept, or more not military, but necessarily more of like real world stakes, like shit really
yeah.
happens.
So I was trying to think of showrunners or executive producers, and I landed on Spielberg, but Starship Troopers popped into my head.
Yeah.
Now I can't think of his name. Who
Who?
was the director?
Oh, Verhoeven.
Yeah, yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing I take away
Yeah,
from yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's not the tone I would want for it.
No, well, you know, Starship Troopers was enlightened because the female soldiers and the male soldiers shower together. So, you know, we're in the
Yes.
future where sex doesn't matter and all that. It's just, let's get the job done, Marine. I guess they're
Yeah.
soldiers in that. They're not cool enough to be Marines. That's aliens. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I didn't even think about, because I had a hard time actually with this. After I suggested this fucking topic, I had a really hard time coming up with three. So
Yeah.
I was looking at lists of like your favorite forgotten shows of the 80s and stuff, and a lot of them are cartoons. So like I didn't even think about rebooting a cartoon, Bionic 6. But you know, like that's a good idea. That's good. I'm actually surprisingly surprised by your three picks.
Hmm.
If that makes sense. All right. I got one more.
Yeah, let's hear it.
This is a show you've never heard of because it only lasted one season, but it's one of those shows when I watched it, I was like, oh shit, it got canceled after one season. And it's kind of a great concept. But again, all of my concepts have to do with someone being pulled against their will into a situation and how do they deal with the situation. And this one goes a lot with Quantum Leap. And it's a show called Awake. So it only lasted one season, and it starred Jason Isaac.
Yes, I know this show.
Okay, so it lasted one season. It was about a cop who's in an accident, and
Yeah.
in his family died, but then he wakes up and his family's alive. So he's actually in two parallel universes: one where his family died, one where his family didn't. And he was but he was a cop, so he's trying to track down the killer in both worlds. I can't quite remember exactly. I'd only watched the season once. And I like it. Like he goes to sleep and he wakes up in one world, goes to sleep, wakes up in the other world. He never seemed to be tired, so apparently he doesn't need sleep.
Yeah. What was it? One world. Yeah. Was it his wife and his son, and only one of them is alive in one and not the other, like that? Or
I can't remember. I can't remember if they
everybody okay in one.
I think everybody was okay in one, but I can't remember. Maybe his kid died in both, but in one his wife died as well. I can't quite remember.
I don't know.
All right. So I would take that basic concept because I think it's a cool concept. And I would have Jordan Peele run it. So it could be like a horror, action, crime vibe.
Sure.
I'd cast Idris Elba as the main character because he's sexy. And then because we talked about it in our group chat, I would cast Hannah Simone as his wife. Cece from New Girl would be his wife. And then just throwing some random shitty kid as their kid. Who cares? Like that role doesn't matter. And again, like you, I don't know any 14-year-old actors or actresses, and I don't need to. So I didn't research that because you don't want to be that Google. You don't want to do that Google search. Hot 14-year-old actresses. You don't want to be that guy. But in my story, because I think like, especially right now with current situations, I wouldn't reboot a show with a cop as the main character. You don't need that. Who cares? And it's easy. Having a detective as the main character is easy. So I would have it that he would be like an ex-con, like a former underworld, like heavy kind of dude, like not the leader of anything, but just sort of like muscle. But he's got out of prison and he's trying to be on the straight and narrow. And then his family's caught in a terrorist attack, like a bombing in like a subway or something, right? So in one world, his family's murdered. In the other world, everyone survives and they're fine. So in my storyline, in one of the stories, he's tracking down who did it for revenge, hell-bent on revenge. But also in the one where everyone died, he becomes the suspect because he has this criminal background. So he's also dodging the cops because he's a suspect in the murder while trying to find the guy who did it. And then in the other storyline, he's trying to find this guy. So in one storyline, he's trying to find the guy to kill him. Like, whoever did this to me, I'm going to kill this guy because I'm a bad guy myself. And in the other storyline, he's trying to find him so it doesn't happen to anyone. Like, he doesn't continue going on and bombing people. Like, he feels some like sense of responsibility because he lucked out in one world. So basically, in one world, he's being hunted and he's hunting. And in the other one, he's just straight up hunting. So I think that'd be a fun sort of thing. And then he has to go back. Like, he has to go back into his underworld roots. He has to go back to get like if he needs a gun, he knows who to go to get a gun. If he needs to go into hiding, he knows to go to get into hiding. So he becomes a criminal again in one of the worlds. But in the other one, maybe he has to dip his toe back in there as well just to get information or whatever, because cops aren't going to help him because he has a record and he's nobody.
Nice.
Yeah.
Never having attentively watched the show, how did it work? Because he would be in one world and then he would go to sleep. Then he would wake up at the other world, right?
Yeah.
So he would switch between them as he was unconscious?
Yes. So, like, if he fell asleep at his desk, he would wake up at his desk in the other world. And if he
I wonder what happened in the other world then. Has he been asleep at his desk then for like 8 hours?
I don't think that was ever really explained. Like, yeah, it was never really explained because some episodes it wasn't like, oh, I got to go to bed now because I got to go back to that other world. It was like he would live in that existence until it was natural for him to go to sleep, and then it would just pick up in the next existence. So maybe time stopped. Again, this would go back to my thought on Quantum Leap is maybe he's just fucking crazy and none of this is real. You know, maybe he's in a hospital bed on life support because he was in a bombing.
Which one is the dream?
Right. Which one's real? Yeah. But I think you could do great with that cast with, take away that cop element, maybe cast a cop to be his, like, in one world, the cop's chasing him. In the other world, he's getting info from the cop. Like, maybe you have the same character in there. So yeah, I just remember when that show popped up on that list, I was like, man, I love that show. Like, I really dug that show. And it's one of the ones when it didn't get renewed, I was like, fuck, like, cause it had a cliffhanger, it didn't get resolved. It didn't get renewed. So I really like that show. Yeah, I got a couple. I got one that I think is a no-brainer that hasn't been done yet that I didn't want to do because it took too much thought. Why not reboot Cheers and make it a brewery? The craft brew craze. Craft brew craze. You just have Cheers as a, your brewery, and your main cast is the brewers and like 2 or 3 regulars. It's so easy. I think there is a show on one of the streaming networks that's set in a brewery, but I haven't watched it.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and then like I said, Millennium is kind of good, like conspiracy show or something like that. But
Craft brew
has craft in the title, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know. I was just thinking about. I was at a craft brewery.
I feel like you should know this.
I was at a craft brewery like a week or so ago. Well, I read that it was a comedy, and I'm like, I have no time for this. Like, I don't care because it's just going to be shitty. Like, all the jokes are going to be like beer-based jokes, I would assume. So it's going to be terrible. But I was at a brewery not that long ago, and
myself an IPA.
Hoppy days are here again. And I was at a brewery, and it was one of the ones where you could see them brewing in the back. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I worked at a record store like a couple of years after Empire Records came out, and it was almost exactly like Empire Records. It was a party every day at the record store. It was great. I looked at these miserable motherfuckers like brewing the beer in the back, and they all had like Blue Lives Matters masks on, and like, those grunt style t-shirts with like AK-47s on the back. And I'm like, nah, like there's, I wouldn't have any, like, this would not be cool to work at this brewery, even though their beers were good.
No, they're modern day moonshiners.
Yeah, they think the world's out to get them, but actually they have a specialized liquor license that's much cheaper than a real liquor license. So that's why you can open a brewery and not a bar. The government's giving them subsidies so then they can wear t-shirts about.
Don't tread on me, man.
Yeah, but give me those subsidies so I can, have my AK-47 grain, Arizona brewed pale ale.
It'd be a lager.
That's yeah. I got to come up with better names. Those aren't good at all. They did have a shirt they were selling, and I don't drink sours because they're the worst beers on the planet. But this brewery, Simple Machine, I like them because they're called Simple Machine. I think that's a cool thing. Their logo is a gear, and in the 4 gears are the 4 elements of brewing beer. So like a hop, a grain, water, and fire, or something like that, which I think is pretty cool. And they have a lime sour called Optimus Lime, and the T-shirt is like a lime-colored Optimus Prime, which, for 2 seconds, I thought like that's not completely shitty. So shout out to Simple Machine Brewing. Yeah, cool. Great shows.
Yeah. I had is that your only one? Cheers?
No, I had Cheers. I had
consider Sliders.
If they didn't Sliders, if they didn't remake them as movies, I think 21 Jump Street's a good concept to have around, but now it would have to be an absurdist comedy, so it wouldn't fit my needs. Because everything with me is dark and gritty. I'm like the Dark Knight Returns of all TV show reboots. But what else did I have on there? Oh, I had a Wise Guy, which was a cop show in the 90s. But I would reboot it as like, yeah, you probably wouldn't be. But I would reboot it. Actually, it's probably in the 80s. But I would reboot it as like a mix of a wire. So remake almost like a Wire, like The Wire, but have an undercover guy embedded over like the course of like 5 seasons. So like a Donnie Brasco, Wise Guy, Wire hybrid, to where you watch one guy, a young recruit, or like The Departed, you have one guy who over the course of like 5 seasons, as he's embedded with this crime family, becomes more and more, he loses himself more and more every season. So I think that's all I had was The Wire, Wise Guy. I had a show called The Black Donnellys that I love that also only lasted 1 season, but no one knows about it. It's about a Irish family in like a Chicago suburb.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
But they were all kids. Like the dad dies, and so like a 20-year-old takes over running the family. That was fun. I think it had Olivia Wilde, like a young Olivia Wilde in it. But that's it. But everyone should check that out. The Black Donnellys, one of my favorite shows of the last like decade. Only lasted 1 season. But yeah, go ahead. What's on your list?
Not anything as intense as that. I was searching for anything, and they had already done Knight Rider. They had already rebooted that, I guess.
Did they?
That was a thing that happened.
No.
Wasn't there a new Knight Rider show? I'm pretty sure there was.
I don't think so.
It was garbage.
I think you're thinking of Baywatch Nights.
Why we can't remember if it happened or not.
Okay. I don't know.
But then I was thinking, oh, maybe like Airwolf, but that was just a helicopter, right? There wasn't anything special about it. Didn't talk or
no, but it was the most advanced helicopter in the world. But yeah, it didn't do anything on its own.
You could go drag John Michael Vincent out of whatever alley he's sleeping in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pair him with the young tech kid.
Yeah, I remember that show. Well, I remember that show, but also part of that show was, I think it was that show, or maybe it was Blue Thunder. Blue Thunder was a movie that was the same concept. It was like a police helicopter. But one of those shows had a thing where the helmet that the pilot wore when he turned his head, the gun on the front matched. So he would just have to look at the target, and that's where the gun in front would
that's
pair.
A premise for an entire series.
So I remember talking to my dad once about like, oh, that's the coolest part of the show is like he just moves his head and the gun moves or whatever. And my dad was like, oh yeah, that's real. Like that, we have that in the military. And I'm like, oh, like it blew my fucking mind because I thought it was like sci-fi shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the extent of how cool Airwolf was or Blue Thunder.
Predator did that shit.
Yeah, Predator did do that shit. Yeah, I considered Airwolf, but there's not much there.
Another cartoon I came up with was who is it? Is Disney Plus? No. Who's doing Animaniacs now? Is it Hulu? There's new Animaniacs.
It's Warner Brothers. It's probably HBO Max.
Oh yeah, that's a good I never cared for Animaniacs.
Oh,
I
it's
just thought it was
great.
boring. Most of the bits were just terrible.
No, they're over
The
your head
singing
because you're
dog
too
and cat
young. You're
garbage.
too young. Animaniacs is great.
The pigeons were the worst fucking thing in the world.
No, you're too young to appreciate it.
Um,
Pinky and the
but I
Brain.
did like Freakazoid.
Yeah, Bruce
So I
Timm.
thought, oh, maybe Freakazoid. Yeah, Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, Steven Spielberg, executive producer.
Right.
Yeah, so I would have like Lord and Miller executive produce.
Yeah, they make those really popular Lego movies.
Yeah, so I went on YouTube and he had a guest bit on Teen Titans Go, which is pretty funny.
God, our age differences are so delineated when it comes to shit like this, like pop culture shit. Like you had the fucking balls to tell me on a text the other day that Teen Titans Go was better than Teen Titans.
Oh, fuck yes.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
By a country mile.
Oh my God. I guess to be fair.
Mostly because I've never seen Teen Titans.
Okay. I've never seen Teen Titans Go. So there it is. Cool. Yeah, we didn't even get into The Mandalorian, which is fine. They introduced a character everyone loves that you haven't heard of because you don't watch the cartoons that I know about.
Let's not talk about the episode that most people thought was the best episode of the season.
Yeah, I had points in it which I thought were great because I have seen the Clone Wars cartoons, so I did know about the character. I thought parts of that were really fun, but then other parts were typical dumb bullshit.
Do you think all of her makeup was CG? No, you don't think so?
No, her fucking head, ear, skull things that comes down, her braids or whatever. You could see the like the folds in the rubber. It actually, to me, it looked kind of shitty actually, like because it looked probably too real. I don't know.
She looked really stiff, like either because she was afraid of things moving because it was practical, or because she wasn't used to all the dot things and she was afraid she was going to fuck
It's
something.
possible, and it's possible that the fighting scenes she looked a little stiff in because she is like she's like my age. She's like a 44-year-old woman. She's not doing backflips and shit with lightsabers. So it could be the mix between those two things. But I thought it was fine. I thought it was enjoyable. Again, this is the thing. You have the most popular TV show on the planet. You have as much money as you could possibly want to run this show. And you name the main character Grogu or Gogru? Grogu?
I think Grogu, I think.
So fucking terrible. Like,
I kept seeing it on that closed caption.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
I guess in its defense, what were you gonna do? Like, isn't the other Yoda's name Yaddle or some garbage?
I thought his name was Yoda.
No, the girl one in the Jedi Council.
Oh.
Are you not familiar with this?
No.
It's like ladle, but with a Y.
So it's Yaddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I wanted, but there's nothing wrong with a little, men, take this young men, take this to heart. Nothing wrong with a little mystery in the relationship, okay? I was fine not knowing Baby Yoda's name.
It could have been a young yogurt.
Yeah, that's what it should have been, and then you could brand it as yogurt. But whatever. We didn't need
talking about Spaceballs.
Whatever. I haven't seen that in forever, and I don't care. I didn't need to know Baby Yoda's name, and I don't think anyone else did either, and I think it was stupid and pointless. But I don't want to talk about it.
They can re-release all of the merchandise with the name on it.
Right. Those 15 pop figures where he's holding something different every week. Now they can rebrand all those.
So good.
And I didn't watch today's because we're recording on a Friday. I didn't watch today's episode yet, but apparently, according to my Twitter feed, people were already spoiling it at like 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like you garbage humans. That's why on this show, we always do the week. We're 10 days out on this show to give your old ass plenty of time to watch the episode. I'm talking about our 48-year-old listener. Watch it at your leisure. I don't want to talk about it. I'm done. It's fine. I didn't need the fucking
Yeah,
name. I didn't
I
need
was
the name.
happy to see my boy, Corporal Dwayne Hicks.
That's right. That's right. We finally know what happened to him after he crash landed on.
He looked like he was uncomfortable being upright. Dude did not look like he wanted to walk around.
I was watching that and I'm like, that's not him. And then I'm like, that's him. And then I'm like, no, that can't be him. And then sometimes in a certain light, you're like, that's totally him. And then it's definitely
Johnny
him.
Ringo.
It's definitely him. Yeah, not John Connor. The other guy who saves John Connor. Corporal something.
God, yeah.
He's corporal in a lot of things.
Oh,
What is his name? John Connor's daddy.
Yeah.
So something Connor. Oh no, Sarah Connor. So that's
No,
right.
Sarah Connor.
Sorry, person that I just offended.
Man.
Nope. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Whatever. I don't know, but at the end she's like, where's your master or whatever? Who's the guy?
Thrawn or Thawne?
Yeah, from something else. But they already have a bad guy they don't do anything with.
Yeah, Corporal Kyle Reese. Yeah, they already have a major bad guy that they don't do shit with. So let's introduce another bad guy that they'll cast for next season.
And so then you make the argument like, oh well, it's setting up the Ahsoka Tano spinoff.
Yeah,
which is infuriating in the middle of a plot line that you're already doing nothing with.
Yeah, well, everyone who shows up on that show, what the fuck is happening right now? Yeah, video viewers get a real special treat here. I'm gonna start sneezing here in a second. All right, yeah, let's wrap it up. Scott, sorry, my beer. Sorry, my beer.
Yeah,
my beer. Steep Drop by Boulevard Brewing Company. I didn't talk earlier. It's only 5.2%, which is normal for a milk stout. I now do see the instructions that I was supposed to pour vigorously and hard, and I did that. But I didn't do the last part. It says to invert the can 3 times, which I forgot to do, but I did give it a hard pour. But at the third step is I'm supposed to groove, and I didn't groove.
I would argue the opposite.
So regardless of lack of grooving, it was fine. Milk stout. I mean, it'd be hard pressed to fuck up a milk stout, but it's also hard pressed to impress with a milk stout. So it's a 3. I'm tired of, I think about a couple months ago, I was like, I'm going to start rating these beers a little higher because we're in a pandemic. Everyone's working hard. Let's be positive. You know what? No one's tossing me work. No one's being nice to me just because I have minimal talent. So this beer has minimal talent. It's a 3 all day. Scott, in this so that I can edit it and go to sleep.
Yeah, fuck off, us.
Yeah.